Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Roundtable Mindset. This is Malin,
And I'm Jamie.
and today we are continuing mixing up things, I
was
guess
to say,
you
it
could
feels
say.
like Freaky Friday all of a sudden. I'm like, what?
I know, it doesn't feel quite normal or right, which I think that's okay.
It's good. It's good.
So yes, as we continue season 3, we're making some changes. We are continuing that with changing how we even introduce the episode. So
Outside the comfort zone.
outside of our comfort zone. So
Push
Jamie,
it.
what's going on with you? What's happening?
I never have anything. Why you ask me that? And like, I work and I come home and I have a puppy who's not a puppy anymore, but it's like life for me right now, which is
Right.
okay. I love it.
Well,
I'm
and
getting
you
ready to
haven't
travel.
Oh, there's something.
Yeah, kind of excited. Going to a conference in Kansas City this week. So,
Okay, I have some great places to eat there. Are you going to have some time, or are you going to be like wrapped up in stuff all the time?
I don't know yet, but there is that Italian place you told me about that
Yes.
we talked about going to. So it is like, though, when you're in a city, this is going to make me sound like a country simpleton or something. But when you're in a city and you want to go someplace, suddenly 10 miles turns into a 45 or 60-minute drive. And I'm like, I don't know if it's worth that.
Well, okay. Would I drive halfway across the country for it? No. But if you're going to be in the vicinity, it is absolutely, in my opinion, must have. If you like barbecue, of course, Kansas City is known for barbecue, but Joe's
Right.
Barbecue, the original place, it's in a gas station, is fantastic.
What?
Absolutely fantastic. I will send you a list. We have some good friends that actually lived in Kansas City, and they had a list of all their favorite restaurants, breakfast place, buffets, Italian restaurants, Mexican, you name it. They had a list for it. And I will send that to you so you have some options to choose from, but a lot of great stuff there.
I don't know that I'm going to travel to a big city for gas station food. I mean, seriously, gas station food?
I'm telling you, if you're going to be a snob on the atmosphere, you're going to miss out on some great places because they are, I mean, it's not much to look at. It's good. And here's the thing. The original Joe's, they still serve gas out of the pumps. So you have people, you're eating outside on their patio and you look 20 feet over and there's someone pumping gas. So that's part of their charm is they literally started from a gas station, took over the gas station, and now they have multiple locations throughout Kansas City. It is so good. It's so good.
Did you just call me a snob?
No.
Okay.
I would say an elitist, but not a snob.
Oh, friend.
Just kidding.
All right, I'll take the snob over the elitist. Thank you.
No, but I'll send you the list.
Snob seems part-time. Elitist seems like my person. So we'll go with it. It's fine.
I'm glad we're laughing today.
Good.
No, for me, again, I sounds like I'm on rinse and repeat, which I am. It's just football season and more football season. So
Right.
my son is learning different positions, so it's kind of fun to watch him do that. And then my youngest son, he just started football, so it's really kind of great to see him coming up the ranks. He went to his first dance, so that was kind of interesting to ask him about. His first 8th grade dance. How was it? It was lame. It's lame, Dad. Everything's lame. So I love him to death, but
right. Sorry, that's great. That's great. Cool.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, I have a new mindset mythbuster.
Oh, sure. What is it?
Would you like to hear it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here we go. So Mindset Mythbuster is our new segment where we're going to take a commonly known mindset and either bust it, confirm it, or I don't know, bust it, affirm it, or just question it, I guess. Right. Your validity. We're going to question the validity. Okay, just kidding. So today's Mindset Mythbuster is only big changes move the needle.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is a good one.
Well,
so what say you?
I think the first conversation is, I think everybody who hears that, and I'm probably going to say it in my own words, but big changes are required to move the needle. I think everybody who hears that naturally goes, oh no, that's not true. And then I think if you start asking people in practice, there's a reason why people don't pay attention to the little things, right? We give first place trophies for winning big things, not for just doing little actions that lead to the win. We
Mhm,
do, we congratulate when a project is done. We don't congratulate the milestones it takes to complete the project. Even in my personal life, I work in IT, as I've mentioned several times. Well, a lot of what we do has to be broken down into very small pieces. We don't celebrate that very often until it's all completed. Well, there's a lot of wins that take place within that that lead to the overall completion. And I would argue that each one of those little pieces is moving the needle. Um, and so no, I absolutely 100% disagree that big changes are the only thing that move a needle. I think we've trained ourselves to only notice those big things, and we only notice certain degrees of that needle moving because of all the huge milestones we pay attention to. So I 100% think this is a giant myth.
yeah. I, shockingly disagree with you. No, I'm just kidding. I do agree, and I
Pay
disagree.
pay no attention to the small things. It's only big wins around here, people.
Well, no, I think it's obvious that the big changes move the needle quickly, and it makes it obvious so that you can see the needle move, but I think what's cool is when I was younger, I think I totally believed this. I think I totally bought into this. Because anytime I wanted to make a change, it was a whole life change, right? Like, I couldn't take a small piece of my life and decide that I wanted to make some changes in that space. It had to be everything. I was gonna move location, I was gonna cut my hair, I was going to completely eradicate sugar from my diet, I was going to make all new friends and find a new career at the same time. It had to be everything or nothing. But as I've gotten older, it's funny because I think when you have more to look back on, you can see the ripples of the small things and how that adjusts and changes, like how we see the world and how we interact with the world. And I think it's also easier then to look forward and see how those small changes can equal big things. So I think the thing about the Mythbuster, only big changes move the needle, is probably the only that I have an issue with, because it does move the needle. Um,
Well
I find a hard time maintaining those big changes, though. Like, it's easier to maintain if I have small things that I'm working on.
Well, and one thing to kinda add to that a little bit is how many times do we just focus on the big things and fail? I mean, when you just gave that list, New Year's resolutions for me fall into that, right? Like, I'm
Yes.
completely changing my
We have
lifestyle.
talked about that,
Yeah,
yes.
my lifestyle is gonna be completely different, from the December 31st, January 1, night and day. Well, it has no staying power, right?
Mhm.
Because it takes habits to change, things that we do in practice. And when you take on too much, it's overwhelming. Again, in my personal and my work life, that rings true 100% of the time. And so I'm learning in both aspects to um, uh, pay attention to the little wins, pay attention to those micro accomplishments, if you will, but then appreciating how all of them combined have a bigger impact. And so I think when I started doing that, that's when I was actually more successful. When I did the big bang, occasionally I would win, and I would those things would persist. But 9 times out of 10, when I go after the huge chunks and I just
Mhm.
focus on those, I end up reverting back to where I was, if not go back further than when I
Mhm.
started. And so, maybe another way to look at this myth without opening a can of worms is, you know, you can move the needle when you just focus on big things, but does it matter which way you're moving the needle? If you're trying to make progress and we want to quantify what moving the needle means, maybe big changes are required to move the needle if you
Right.
don't care which way the needle moves. If you want the
Mhm.
needle to move forward, then I don't think big changes are the way to go.
Yeah. I often think of, like, the idea of, um, like an aircraft. If you get a plane off of their trajectory just, a degree, how eventually how totally different area that plane can end up in, like the divergence, that small divergence can make a huge difference. And I guess it all depends on if you're looking at the short game or the long game, right? Like if you need big changes now, then to make a big impact, that will work. But if you're looking at the long game, the small changes do make a big difference. So,
Yeah, I think that was a really good myth buster that we talked about. Moving on to today's conversation, Jamie, I'd like to introduce a brand new guest that we have. So I'm excited. I'm going to call her a friend. I know I've known Brooke earlier in my life. So we actually attended school together when we were youngins, and she is a therapist. And so she's going to be coming on and introducing herself to us, as well as we're going to be talking about happiness versus complacency. So it's going to be a really
yes.
great topic. So with that, Brooke, welcome to the roundtable.
Thank you, Malin. Thanks for having me on here. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
I just wanted to just share I'm a practicing licensed clinical social worker and a licensed addiction counselor, and I'm newer to the field. I work in a nonprofit and also have a private practice.
Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you.
It's going to be a fun topic. So this is one that I know as you're binging, because I know you will be, Brooke, binging all of our past episodes. I need to get you caught up. So Jamie and I are just having different conversations with our perspective in this season. And one of the ones that's been in our backlog that we wanted to bring up kind of stems from a conversation that I've had and I'm going to say was with my family. I think it was my wife. I'm not 100% sure, but all great things with me in my life start with my wife, so I'm going to give her credit. So this conversation is no different. So it was through this conversation that I started like asking questions around, well, what makes somebody happy? And it kind of came up to the front as, well, what's the difference between happiness and complacency? And so with you being kind of new to the roundtable and bringing your expertise and your knowledge, we just wanted to have an open dialogue between some of the things around that. We're not going to define what is happiness, because again, that's going to be a whole series by itself. But I think for this conversation, just kind of narrowing in to say, is happiness always positive and complacency is always negative? Do you always try to leave one and go to the other? Can you be happy if you're, being complacent in life? Are there times when you don't know which one you are? Can you be truly happy, or can you be in a state of complacency and not know the difference? So it's just going to be one of those. And of course, I think Jamie and we have differing points of view across some of that. But oh, I know, shocker. It's going to be, hold on to your socks. This is something brand new. Jamie and I don't agree. But yeah, just wanted to have the conversation to say, what does this look like? And kind of get you as the resident expert in this conversation, just kind of weigh in and give us your 2 cents. So,
Yeah. I wonder, it might be helpful to start with, like, we're not going to define happiness, because I think when I Googled it, it said a state of being happy.
yeah, thanks, Webster.
Right, which is, pretty much useless. But might be helpful to start with defining complacency or complacent. So yeah, Brooke, what do you think? What is complacency?
Well, I would say it's when somebody is comfortable with the situation that they're in, they're pleased with where they're at, and there's no sense of like urgency to like grow or change or do anything different out of their current routine. Some people might say that, it could be like this period of time where someone is unaware of some deficiencies that they might have, or the lack of areas where they need to grow. And some might also say this is an area where there's some like spiritual apathy, and you're kind of unaware of some of the things that you need to change.
That is a whole different direction than I was expecting. Because you're describing pre-contemplation in my world, right? Like, there's issues that maybe I don't even know exist, and I haven't been made aware of them yet. So that's huh.
Well, and just again, I am the non um, health space person, and so when I heard that, what I try to equate it to, Brooke, is even in that conversation, I was pulled towards complacency being a negative aspect, right? In
Mhm.
my own personal life, it has a negative connotation. I do think there is a positive quality to being happy with what you have and being content. But then at the same time, I've always been this way. I've always been a driven individual, and I've always looked to what can I do next? What can I do next? Sometimes at the detriment of, we said it in the myth busting segment earlier. Like I never really stop and smell the flowers because I'm always like on to the next thing, on to the next thing,
There are bigger
and
flowers.
bigger flowers that smell better. And sometimes that's true, and sometimes I'm like, I wish I would have spent some time smelling those because these are not great. They're not awesome. But at the same time, is part of my happiness because I'm not being complacent? And on the flip side, do you think there's people who can be happy being in that space and just saying, I'm doing what's enough right now and I don't need or cannot handle anything new, so I'm pretty happy. Does that exist in your opinion?
I feel like people can be blissfully unaware of some of the things that they need to work on and are okay with where they're at. They might to the point where they don't want to improve or they're just comfortable and secure in what they're doing and they may be okay with it.
I often think of like those people that are just easy. You know what I mean? Like nothing rattles their cage too much, nothing
Middle child. Sorry, go on.
well, yeah, there's that. But just those people who are just they kind of go with the flow. I am not built that way personally. Like I always have that I don't know, that drive to learn more, to do more, to be more, to, all of those things. And it's exhausting sometimes. I mean, it can lead to feelings of never being enough, right? Like I'm never good enough. I'm never smart enough. I'm never help enough. I never do enough, whatever. Um, and that can be also not a positive thing. Sometimes it would be nice to be one of those people that just are cool. Like I'm just good. I'm good. Everything's fine, you know?
Well, you know what? Again, where my brain's going is I'm going back to that conversation we had with Dave on trauma. And he said something about some people are just more susceptible to trauma and some people are have easier resilience to trauma. I wonder if that's kind of the same concept of being, happy versus just complacent. Because I kind of look at it as, and I don't know if I'm the only one, is it that this is going to sound really bad, but I'm just going to say it. Is happiness an emotion and complacency is a mindset? Like you actively stay in a
Mm,
state of complacency, but happiness is an emotional response to something else that's going on. Kind of remember when had conversations around anger and how anger was a responsive emotion. Is
mhm.
happiness also responsive, do you think? Am I rambling here? Somebody jump in.
No, but I might need a minute to process what you just said. Like,
Mhm.
because that's a lot.
Sorry.
So
Well, it does, I think you're right. I wonder, and you did kind of I think we did kind of set this up as a one versus the other. And I wonder, like, the more I have thought through this week, it's like, is it really a versus thing, right?
Right, right.
Like, can I be complacent and be happy? Can I be happy and not be complacent? Can I be sad and be working on myself all the time? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and that's I think that's kind of I've been in that space where I am working my tail off trying to do and be and all of those things, and it didn't ever make me feel content, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's more like complacency versus contentment, I don't
Yeah.
know, like, maybe there's some different dichotomy there, but I definitely, um but I do think complacency can be problematic too, like, the place that I have put this the place that was easiest for me to I don't know, I guess most accessible to think about complacency was like a workplace, right? Like if I'm at work and I mean, I made the phone call and no one called me back. Well, I tried, but did I try as hard as I could have? Or did I give it my best effort? Or, those kind of things. It was easier for me to access complacency in a work situation because I think that there are times where and I think everybody does that, where we are giving 100% effort in our jobs, and there are times where we're just going through the motions, right? Um, Unfortunately, in some workplaces, that can lead to, like, safety issues, right? Like, if I'm like, did I check the bungee cord to make sure my friend wouldn't fall off the scaffolding? I did it last week, it's fine, right? Like, then there's some safety issues that could come up, but I don't know, it's kind of been it has been a little bit of an elusive idea for me this week, I think, because it's a big
It,
topic.
yeah, I think Jamie, what you're saying is like it's almost like this position that I'm overly satisfied and content with my current situation, so
Mhm.
that to the point where I might not want to see where I need to grow, or I don't want to address certain dangers, or I'm just not motivated to take on new challenges. Or,
Right.
like you said, I might just be okay with putting in the minimal effort in
Punching
this
the clock.
place. And I
Yep.
think that some people, kind of what Malin was saying, there's some people are okay sitting in this space and may be content or happy in this space, whereas some others might not be, that they're always striving to do something different, something more, to learn, to grow, so they don't stay in this complacency position very long.
So I'm going to
Mhm.
pick at something that you just said, Brooke, because I think it leans itself to a realization that I had earlier with Jamie and even right now. And that is there is a quality for me as an outsider of say, let's just say you, right? I'm almost qualifying what happiness is okay for you to experience and also complacency as well, right? Like to me, I'm taking all of my experience, all of my uh the way I was brought up, my beliefs, all of it, and I'm applying that to you. So it's easier for me. I mean, I'm struggling here saying for myself, I know what makes me happy and I know that I don't want to stay in a complacent state and I want to keep moving forward. But I'm also applying that to what you're saying, and I'm also saying, I could see where it would be really easy for me to look at your life or anybody's life in general and say, "Yeah, but you're kind of being complacent and you shouldn't be in that. You should wanna change. You wanna do something different because you don't wanna stay in in that space." Well, that's a dangerous place as well because why would I be able to do that, right? And I think that's a lot of the conversation that Jamie and I have been having over the last 2.5 years to get me to a spot now where, I've had to wrestle with judgment and I've judged other people and other actions and I've burned a lot of bridges. Now I think this is the next layer down, which is I'm applying what I believe and understand certain situations to other people's lives and they have to follow that. And when they don't, that's when it's a problem. So can we maybe pick that apart a little bit of why? I mean, it's never a good idea. We all know that instinctively. But in practice, even some of the statements you said, it was almost qualifying other people's form of complacency and happiness, which reminded me to ask that question. Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm asking. Jamie,
Kind of.
am I completely in left field over here?
No, you're muted. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Sometimes I feel like I'm muted. Right.
No, I think well, and I do think and this is fun. It's funny that you're saying this because I don't want to and I don't wanna dive into 500 other topics that I feel like
Right.
this really could touch on. At the same time, it does kind of feel like a global topic to say I can't decide for you what's complacency. Like, I
Right.
feel like I can take the word complacency and I can take this and I can reflect on it and I can examine it and I can decide if I'm in that space, right? And it's a really great tool for me to judge my own actions or lack of action and where I'm at and decide if that is true for me, that yeah, wow, I really have been complacent in this area of my life and I want to make some changes, big or small, to move the needle to a different direction. Look, we're coming full
Oh,
circle.
look at you pulling it all
But
together.
Yep.
but for
So
for real, it like as a self-reflection tool or a personal growth tool, I think that's amazing. I do think it becomes problematic if I am looking at you, my friend Malin, and I'm like, he's really been complacent in our friendship lately or whatever. That can be a real big problem in a relationship or in a workplace or, in those spaces because that I can't see what's happening for you. Maybe it's not complacency. Maybe it is a time of needed rest. Maybe it's a time for you to be able to focus on other things that I'm not seeing. Or, maybe you are going through some big trials that I don't know about. And that is where the judgment, I think, becomes really dangerous when it comes to this kind of stuff, because I think it's easy to look at numbers or performance or achievement and decide, oh, clearly they're being complacent, but there may be 500 other things that's leading to that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, because I think like I see what you're talking about. Complacency becomes a problem when it like stops you from pursuing your goals or like adapting to something new. And I would think it's like if you're just not taking an opportunity that you could have, or like you're declining in your work performance or your quality of life is declining. And maybe some people are okay sitting in that space, but who are we to say whether you're complacent or not to another person? Because what looks like complacency to me might be different to you.
No, I completely agree. And again, Brooke, I know this is our first real conversation at the round table, so I'm going to just warn you. I try to push these kinds of ideas into different situations to look at them differently. So I'm about to do that now. So everything we've talked about between, happiness and complacency, and I agree, we can't look at somebody else and say, "Oh, they're being complacent." We shouldn't, at least. We do. I'm going to put myself, I do. I use that. I can define what that is all the time, and I can use it and apply it. So I do that.
Humans are judgmental.
Yeah.
We do that.
But here's a situation, and this is going to be kind of dark a little bit, and it's not funny, and I'm not making light of it, but I'm just saying this is how my brain works, is to say, let's take these examples and put them or this conversation and put them into a real life example. I have seen in news articles and I have seen on shows, and I would be lying if I said I also didn't harbor some of these same opinions. But what if we take everything we've been talking about and talk about a family dynamic where a mom is in a relationship with somebody who is physically abusing their child, and it's been happening, and they've known about it for a while, and they have really not done a lot to remove the person from their home or the child from the environment. Again, I'm going to start with my perspective. It would be extremely easy for me to say, why are you being so complacent in this situation? Why aren't you doing something? Why aren't you changing the landscape? Why aren't you fighting back? Why? I think it's in those types of situations that it really pushes me to say everything we've been talking about. How do you apply it in practice to something like that?
So you're saying like if you're seeing somebody doing something that is harming another or that is not like in line with what you would want, maybe explain it a little bit more.
Well, I think we all, okay, I'm going to stop saying we
Because,
all.
like, yeah.
For me,
All or nothing, Malin.
it is very easy in those types of situations because, again, I like to push things to the nth degree because I think it's in these fringe cases that you really harness and can see the real dynamic between them, right? So if we're talking about complacency, and again, we're kind of applying that, I'm looking at the world, I'm looking at the relationships through the lenses that I have built my entire life. And we've mentioned this before on our show too, Jamie, where we are all wearing these perspective lenses that we have on our face. And through these lenses that I've built, there are things that in my life I can't imagine just, and I'm going to say air quote, sitting around and watching happen or watching happen to other people. So everything we've talked about, Brooke, around we shouldn't be doing that to other people. And who are we to define what complacency or happiness is to somebody else? At the same time, when you have a situation like I just stated, it's very easy to just go into the thing of saying, I don't have any other reasoning why this would be continued on and nobody would say anything other than you're just being complacent in the event. And so that's why I brought this example up, is because I think it challenges us to re look at the conversation that we're having right now in real time to say, but things like that happen, and how do you not apply that same verbiage and that same understanding to other people? Now, that may be wrong for me because I don't know the situation that's going on in that household, but just everything of, my experience and these lenses that I'm using, I'm looking at it, I can't rationalize that in my brain as anything other than being complacent, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's kind of a prime example of saying we shouldn't do these things, but how else would you handle something like that? I mean, I think it's human nature, but at the same time, there's a whole dynamic there that's going on that we don't know about. And here's the scary part, and then I'll let you talk. But here I'm passing judgment on this fictional scenario, but in reality, I have no idea of knowing what this person had to do or is in the process of doing or has tried in the past. I'm judging the situation with my own perspective lenses, and I'm telling this person not to be complacent. And I know it's a little off topic because I think this conversation's a little weird because I don't think there's firm edges on this, right? Like I don't think you cross the line and say you're now from happiness to complacency. But how do you apply this in practice and in relationships? I don't know. That's what I struggle with.
So are you thinking the person that is allowing this to happen would be the one to come and say, come to me in therapy?
I would say yes. And I would wonder if the person that would come to you would think that they are in a state of complacency, or obviously they're not happy, but would they recognize, is that a form of complacency or not? And is it truly? If you're forced, maybe that's another aspect. If you're forced into a situation that you can't get out of, can something force you into being complacent? Do you think, hypothetically?
That's
Hmm.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that's something to chew on.
Yes, that is quite something to chew on. Go ahead, Jamie.
Well, I was gonna say, don't you feel like some of it is it's a process, right? Like I imagine if I'm putting myself in this fictional scenario where I'm seeing someone whose kids are in a unsafe environment and this specific parent isn't doing something about it. My first question is why? It's not and it's not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you? Like what in that environment is making it unsafe for you to do what you know you want to do? Um, do you recognize that your kids are in danger? Do you recognize that you're in danger? And am I looking at this unsafe, air quoted situation in my own purview, or is it an actual safety concern, right? Like those are kind of the questions that I would ask because I they're just I always there's outliers. We've said that a million times. There's always outliers, but parents don't want to put their kids in a dangerous space. But if they are powerless to change it, what do you do, right? Is that complacency or is that, lack of tools, lack of resources? I don't know that I can call that complacency, but I can see easily because I think this happens all the time. I think we see a situation and we make a judgment about a situation, whether it's complacency or laziness or, whatever those words are that we assume from our own experiences. And we can look at these things and assume what's happening. But truthfully, I think I think the value in learning these skills that we're kind of talking about, which is, I mean, okay,
There are a lot.
Maybe I was gonna say, maybe it's not, but this feels like empathy, right? Like we're talking
Oh,
about
here we go. No, I'm
I
just
know.
kidding.
I knew you were gonna go there. But
Everything on peanut
truly,
butter and jelly sandwiches have something to do with empathy. Just ask Jamie.
well, peanut butter's lonely by itself.
I
I'm just kidding.
knew it. I knew you'd be able to
Totally
do it.
kidding. But truly, I mean, I think it's that ability to be able to think outside of the box and outside of what we see and what we believe, to be able to understand where people are coming from. And then how we respond to that, I think that's the important piece, right? Like, do we then come alongside that parent to say, hey, is everything okay? And I mean, for real, not like, hey, how's your day? Like, is there anything I can do to help you? Can I, here's my phone number. If you need to call me, call me. I will be there. Whatever that looks like. I think I don't know, that's the skill set to build, right? Not just the judgment.
Well, I mean, you're thinking, it depends on if you're talking to the person that's doing this to the child or if you're talking to the person that's just along and is the other parent.
Hmm.
Depends on
Yeah.
who you're addressing and what their level of, I don't know if it's so much about complacency. It's, you know, do they feel safe enough to even look at what's going on? Or, what are they doing there? Because I do agree with you when somebody does come and disclose something. Like, if I were to know, say somebody was in this fictional character, like if I know that there is a child being harmed, like I'm a mandated reporter, like I would have to
Right.
say, you are, then I would have to, file something with adult child protective services, and I would have to get other people involved if I believed that this child was being harmed, even if it was just not the parent, just the other parent in the relationship that may have told me about it. They're not the actual ones doing it. So, I mean, I don't know what brings somebody to the point of when they're in that type of a situation, but if they were to come to me, you would want to definitely come at it from like a curiosity standpoint of like what kind of like what you were saying is like what is going on, what happened, can you tell me like what is going on in the household, like was there a breakdown somewhere, because we don't know. If you're just seeing it from the outside, like if something happened or they're involved in something like out of their control, I would want to know more about it.
So as I dig through that, because I think this maybe the scenario I used is so strong that it's probably dampening the real meaning around the
Mhm.
complacency that I was trying to get to.
So are you saying we missed the mark? Is that what
No,
you're
I
saying?
think
Okay.
it's about applying it to that specific because that's such a horrible situation that it's just like,
Mhm.
really the intention of that is trying to say, okay, in something as horrible as that, if somebody and I think for me, if I had to quantify what it would be to be in a state of complacency, I would have to feel like I deserved less than, right? In order for me to say I need to settle for what is just given to me and I don't want to strive to I don't know if these are the right words, do something better or different or achieve something, I would almost feel like I almost deserve this, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that's a normal thought pattern or not, but Brooke, in your experience, is there a difference between, or is there a way that as a therapist, I'm just, talking not in all therapists in general, but just in your purview, are there things that, you or therapists can help clients see the difference between I'll call it healthy acceptance or just settling for less. Because in my mind, it's the settling for less. It's settling for, I don't deserve anything better, so this is as good as it's going to get. And I can kind of see that. I've never been in an abusive relationship or I've never been in a relationship that's not been healthy. But I could understand how those qualities could keep people from wanting to reach out if they believe this is all I ever deserve. So this is where I'm going to sit. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yes. So if you think about like we haven't really touched on what, like, okay, we've talked about complacency, but the idea of happiness, like that being like you're satisfied with your life and that you feel like there's a deep sense of meaning and purpose behind what you're doing and that you're content and maybe you have some joy in your life. So if somebody comes to me and they're like, I want to, like, I'm unhappy. I don't like the way my life is going. And they start telling me, our job is to really partner with them to figure out what could they do to feel this sense of happiness or improve that. And basically what they're coming to you to help with is to reduce suffering and to help them build tools and different perspectives to kind of address some of those emotional burdens or help them like pick apart like and recognize unhealthy patterns that they've kind of developed over the years. And how do we cultivate like more positive emotions and help them find meaning and purpose in the life that they have? Because, there's so many different ideas about what happiness looks like. So a lot of people think it's like this exterior goal or motivation. Like if I have this thing, or I have more money, or I have this job, or I have this partner, and they try to look at it from that angle instead of like, hey, this is an inside job. No one can bring me happiness. Like I have to work on it from like an internal point of view. Am I kind
Yep.
of
Mhm.
hitting along the
Yep.
so when somebody comes to you and if they're always waiting for that other shoe to drop, yeah, I can't celebrate this success because like this other thing isn't in place and it's probably too good to be true. Or like you're saying, Malin, they came from a background where they were told or shown or somehow influenced to believe that they're not good enough or they're never going to be good enough. They might just settle and like sit down in that, this is who I am, this is what I have. Nothing I do is ever going to get me out of this position. So they almost are like paralyzed in that.
So if I'm translating what you just said, so again, I'm feeling like it can't be something that somebody can tell you, hey, you're being complacent, go fix yourself. It's a matter of you have to come to that realization yourself that, hey, I want something better than what I have now. And maybe I've been complacent in a few areas of my life. But do you have any like nuggets or anything that you can say, like, how would you get someone, like, what questions would you ask someone to get them to start thinking through that on their own, to maybe self-analyze, am I being complacent? Do I deserve more? How do I become happy again? Like anything that you can kind of share?
I think a lot of times when I'm listening to people kind of sharing their story or the things that are going on in their lives, like I'm listening for patterns, negative self-talk, listening for like negative emotions. What where can we kind of tease out, like if I'm listening to somebody and I see them light up about something in particular, like something that like a hobby or something, that an activity that they did, or even just like I volunteered or I did this thing, and you see their face light up, like I'm going to hone in on helping them identify things that bring them joy or like those little glimpses of excitement. And that might be where I steer the conversation, is how do we build upon those things where you're smiling and you're excited and you're wanting more. And even if you're in a poor situation, how do we help you see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Don't you think too? I think some of us have relationships in our lives where I guess the only way I can think of to describe it is like we come with our hands open with the stuff, right? To say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. And I trust you with that. And I trust you with this interaction because I have had people in my life that have been like, hey, Jamie, Are you ignoring this thing? One of my friends, we used to laugh about, she'd ask me flat out, are you being pre-contemplative about that thing? Like, because we
Mhm.
knew the words, right? So we just kind of use that as a way to talk about it. And I think when we come to, like, when we have those kind of relationships, it's the same. Like, I feel like those are spaces too where I would feel free to be like, hey, you know, are, are you ignoring something big here? Are you just accepting mediocre? Are you accepting the status quo? Because I've heard you say you want something bigger, you want something different. Um, I love that, and I'm always gonna bust stigmas about therapy every single time I have I have the opportunity, but how valuable is that when it comes in a relationship? You know what I mean? The problem comes when I say things that aren't appropriate in relationships that aren't appropriate, right? Like, sometimes it's not super effective for me to ask my young adult daughter when she was a teenager, "Are you really trying your hardest?" Because she wasn't gonna hear that in that kinda way from me. Now, I do think that's different, and I love how she kinda challenges me in that way sometimes, like, "Hey, mom, that's not what you said you wanted with your life, or that's not you had a
Mhm.
dream, go find your dream." So, I do think it's big in relationships to think about that. I also think, Malin, your scenario has kinda brought up some thoughts for me, though, I guess, societally about complacency. And you think about, like, when you see major atrocities happening and you don't do something, or um or you allow things to go on without exercising rights, like, whatever. um I wonder if we can talk about that a little bit too, like, 'cause I think complacency, like bullying, right? We teach our kids about bullying and how to stand up to bullies and, that kinda thing, and we want our kids not to be complacent in that, and yet those can be some scary situations or some difficult situations.
Okay, so just let me butt it or jump in here for just a second though, Jamie, because I remember we talked about empathy as a verb. Remember that episode where we
Mhm,
talked?
mhm.
So what does complacency look like as a verb? Because to me, when I'm hearing you talk and Brooke talk, it almost feels like complacency, and this is going to be so weird to say out loud because I could see it in both ways. It could be a non-action you're taking, but it can also be an action that you are doing to stay in the state of complacency. So when
Mhm.
we talk about complacency, what is that? What would the action verb be?
Well, I just the only thing I'm thinking of is, like, 10 years ago, I shut off the news completely. Like, I would allow myself once a week to jump on to, or read the newspaper or something to gather some information, but I mean, I was so steeped in the 24/7 news cycle that it was, like, detrimental to my mental well-being. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was danger everywhere, and the world was going to crap, and this was 10 years ago. The world wasn't going to crap 10 years ago, right? Not like it
Mm.
feels like it is today sometimes. And I wonder if some of that feeling that I have that the world is going to crap is because I'm watching after at once, like, the beginning of 2020 and the pandemic and all of that tuned me right back in. So was I complacently ignorant, like, just blissfully unaware of all of the things that were happening in the world 10 years ago and now I know? Or um am I feeding something that's not healthy too? You know what I'm saying? So that's an example I thought of, I guess, in my own life is because sometimes I did get chided for not being informed about certain things because I was, well, you just don't want to know? Like, no, I needed not to know. Like, I needed to be able to protect my peace that way. Um, does that,
I
I don't
think
know.
J I think, like, Jamie, you were talking about, like, being pre-contemplative, and I think that's where when people come to us and you're talking about being, like, blissfully ignorant about something, I mean, that's where, like, a therapist would come in and we would use, like, motivational interviewing to kind of help people recognize that this is holding you back
Mhm.
because they may not even know, and then basically what you're doing is helping somebody take responsibility and acknowledging like, oh, this isn't working for me, because it never works when somebody points it out for you. Like, hey, you're doing this, you could be doing more, or hey, this would be better if you could grow in this area. Like, not many people, I guess, like it or appreciate when somebody's like, hey, you have this problem. Like, it doesn't mean that if somebody identifies it, that you're ready to work on it. And I think if it's a moment where you have an aha moment and you're like, oh my gosh, I could be doing better. I could actually work on this. I think that's where we start to develop like a growth mindset, and you start stepping into like, this is what I want to do with this. This is how I want to change it. Because
Mhm.
I mean, I think until like you can recognize it within yourself that it's a problem and that you want to work on it, otherwise people may not be open to working on it.
Yeah, I go back and I listen to both of you guys, and another thing that comes to my mind is, why is it that if you are being complacent and it's a positive slant, you're a supporter? If you are complacent and it's a negative slant, then you are just part of the problem. Do you see what I mean? Like, from a society perspective, there's even this understanding that if I can support something by doing nothing, I'm a form of complacency, and yet I can be labeled as a supporter. I can also be, do nothing and have society look at me as I'm not taking action. And so it's just very funny that when we ever say the word complacency, it's usually in a negative connotation. And so even in this conversation that we've been going back and forth on a little bit, trying to find the edge, that's what I struggle with so much. I like black and white. I like logic. I like firm edges on certain topics. This does not have a firm edge. This does not
No.
have a line in the sand. This does not have the boundaries that I love operating in, which is kind of forcing me to think about it a little bit differently and trying to find, well, really, what is the root problem? We've been talking a lot and we've been poking at a lot of different things. I guess really maybe the next question to ask all of us is, say, is there a problem with being complacent? And I don't want to say ever or always, because I think the answer to that is yes. But if you are complacent in your life, does that mean there's a problem? After this conversation, I don't think I can say yes. What do you think there, Jamie?
Well, I was just even thinking, do we need does this topic need hard edges, right? Like, because I do. I think we can use complacency. For me, I can easily, and it's almost like the internal messages, like those internal recordings that are talking to me, mean that when I am looking at myself as being complacent, it's judgment from something else. It's not even judgment from me. It's something in my DNA or something in my upbringing or something that's saying, hey, you're being lazy, you're not doing enough, and you're not working hard enough. Let's get up and get going, right? And sometimes I need rest, and sometimes it's okay to just be okay. And and I also use complacency as a motivator to go and do the things, you know what I'm saying? Like, I do think that, um, it's like we were talking about earlier, my friend, it's like balance. It requires balance. Now, where I have an issue with complacency in a negative way is when it's being used as judgment. And I have been just as guilty as everybody else and looking at a situation and being like, "Oh, they're just being complacent." And that's really not fair, for me to judge because I'm internally judging myself when I'm in that space, you know? So I think for me, this has been such a good conversation just to reframe, like, what is it? Where is it useful? Where is it important? Where is, um and typically, I think when I'm looking at someone who I deem as complacent, who is absolutely happy, blissfully happy in their life, that's still a judgment from me deciding, wow, you're ignoring. you're ignoring the big old wart on your face and you're just pretending like it's not there, and just because I think there's a wart on your face doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things that I really have to think about how I use that in judgmental ways and how damaging that can be to relationship, I think.
Yeah, Brooke, what do you think about that? Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, from a professional standpoint, like when somebody comes to me, you're having to go in with non-judgment and you have to meet people where they're at. So if somebody's okay with being in this rut, who am I to say that you need to get out of that rut? I need to be supportive. If you are satisfied in this place in your life right now, then I have to be okay with that and support them in that until they decide that, you know, I want to do something different or this is a problem. You have to support people in that, right? It's
Well,
kind of
and
like even in your personal life, if somebody comes to you, they don't necessarily want your unsolicited opinion about how they're doing life wrong.
Yeah, but that's for free from me, right? Like I'll just tell you.
Yes.
right.
Um,
It's no work for Malin.
no,
Well,
it's a freebie.
another thing, Malin, I guess as I'm even thinking about that, it's like I see it's as a helper, as someone in a helping profession, even though I hate those words, I don't help, I support. But in that space, it is so hard to be sitting with someone that you can see massive amounts of potential in, right? You can see all of the things that could be if they could just believe it too. That is a really hard space to be in. And I think that's part of where that judgment about complacency can come from is like, you know, um, in places I have where it's been pointed out to me in a not so healthy way as a reflection and more an accusation. It's like, I can't do anything about it until I believe I can have those things too. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I do think that it's definitely a topic that can cause more division than help if it's not approached well, or if it's approached from someone who does not have the right to have that, like to have that opinion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that, we've spent almost an hour now talking about happiness versus complacency. And I don't feel like I have gained a lot of traction, right? Like I feel like I'm sitting here just spinning my tires in this mire. And everything that's in me is like, I need to keep fighting this, right? Like I need to keep understanding. I want to keep, I have to be really happy and I don't want to be complacent. Well, there are qualities. I mean, I go to my Christian beliefs, right? We have a day built in where we're supposed to just be and not have to work and not have to worry about something. And we are supposed to just be content. And you have all these wonderful examples that you say why, a happy life is one that you're happy with what you have. Yeah, you might have goals, you might want to achieve things, but also learn to be happy with what you have. And I think that's what I struggle with, right? That's what I'm really balancing. I think you said earlier, Brooke, um, being happy is some people tie it to achievements. That's me. Like you spoke directly to me. I am only happy if I achieve X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm not taking it into account or appreciating the journey to get to those spots. And guess what? When I get to X, I'm not even going to be happy then because I'm automatically looking at Y. And now I'm going to start
Mhm.
achieving that. And then when I get to Y, am I going to be happy? Nope, because now I need to get to Z. So I
Right.
think I think there's this sense of I have to accomplish to be happy, but the actual act of accomplishing is really taking away from happiness. And so in my brain, there is just this big yin and yang going back and forth that says, can you be happy with just being content? And the answer should be yes. But I think for me, and I'm hoping a lot of our listeners, for whatever reason we're in this mindset of no, I won't be happy until I've achieved the next thing I have to achieve. And guess what? It's just a mirage because beyond that is yet another thing that I want to achieve. So being being somebody who wants to achieve a lot and you want to grow and you don't want to stay stagnant, all of those are qualities that are admirable. But I think there's also a lost art of just being happy with who you are and where you're at. And that's what I struggle with. And even in this conversations, like I said, I'm battling against that to say, no, you shouldn't just be okay with what you are right now. You always want to go more, 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 and more. And I'm starting to realize in this conversation, that's probably where I need to spend some time and understand not happiness versus complacency, but really the art of being content. And I think we've circled this drain all conversation talking about contentment while we're trying to focus on happiness and complacency. And I really do think it's a commitment or commit. I can't speak now, but you get my point.
Well, and I was going to say, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head way early, like 54 minutes ago or something, when you said, is complacency a mindset and happiness an emotion? And I mean, it does kind of make me think like that complacency piece. I think there's place for it for sure, because it does give us motivation. It gives us drive. It helps us see places that we can do the work. And there is a place, I don't even know how to make this not like incense and patchouli oil, like
Grab your crystals. Everyone grab your crystals.
exactly. But like, just like self-love. You know what I mean? Like where we can appreciate the work that we have done and know without, like resting on that. Cause that I think is complacency too. Like, hey, I've already achieved it. I'm good. I don't need to work any harder. And that's a whole different thing than holy wow, look at all of the amazing things that I've been able to do. And look at the people I've been able to help and, all of the things that give us joy and contentment and peace and worth and value for ourselves. I think that's why this topic is probably, I mean, I feel like it's like a yin and a yang where we're like, no, you got to work harder. Because I think there are people who do rest in complacency. And then there are people who use it to constantly beat themselves up for not working hard enough or something. And there's got to be a balance in the middle to say, hey, I can work harder and I have worked hard. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it can definitely be a weapon to use against somebody too, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
The
let's
dark side of
weaponize it.
complacency. Is that our next? Yeah.
That's the next one.
Malin
next
loves the
chapter.
dark side of of every episode. We have love and light from Jamie, and then we have the dark side of the moon from Malin.
Next week, we'll talk about the dark side of puppies. Just kidding. There are no dark side of puppies. Puppies are awesome.
Well, I don't know. There is that raptor phase. Like that wasn't fun.
Well,
No.
I think part of this too is kind of what you were saying, Jamie, is like there's an element of mindfulness because some people are just surviving in this space and they're like, okay, what I've done thus far, this routine, this kind of structure that I have for my life is working for me right now. I'm just kind of like have blinders on and I'm like, okay, this has been working for this long. Like, why do I need to travel outside of this? And some people are okay kind of in that space. So maybe you're helping people just practice mindfulness of like, okay, you achieved these things, but what else? Like, is there more? Do you want more? What will this look like? And I think also challenging people to kind of look at that next thing.
Well, and I do wonder, Malin, maybe you just have a growth mindset, and that it's not because complacency isn't in your vocab because you're striving for something different all the time. I do think that is one of the pictures that I often have when I think about like a fixed mindset, like this is good, this is fine, where I'm at is good. And that growth, that constant striving for something more or better or just growth is, I do think that is part of who you are, my friend. You just have a growth mindset.
Yeah, and again, I think you can make anything a villain or a weapon in anything, a success in or a champion story, right? Like I think if you look at everything in the absolutes, you can always get there. I think my final thought on this, though, is my wife has heard over the last couple weeks saying that just drives her absolutely nuts, and that is two things can be true at the same time, right?
That is correct.
And so I also share with her the frustration because there's sometimes, although I hear the words, the intention of how it's being used, I'm like, okay, no. But in this case, final thought for me is this a topic where you can be happy and staying put in your life or unhappy and trying to achieve the next thing? I think this is a topic that is both of those things can be true when it comes to happiness versus complacency. And as much as I don't like it, because this is that soft, edgeless void that we're swimming in, maybe that is true. Maybe
I am
this conversation is just that.
I'm
And
writing
I
down the date and the time that Malin accepted that two things can be true at the same time right here and now, folks.
yes.
Mark it.
It's a rarity.
It is.
So thinking along those lines, Malin, like I think somebody could be complacent and also hold that growth mindset and still have the desire to want to do something different. So like on one hand, I know I could be doing better, but I'm like, I've acknowledged that, but I'm still holding space over here. And on the other hand, like I want to do this thing, but it isn't the right time or it isn't the right like situation for whatever
Mm,
reason. I'm not moving forward, but I'm satisfied where I'm at in this moment, which doesn't mean that I'm not going to move in the near future.
that's
That's really good.
yeah, that's another good point. My goodness. I think the only way to wrap this up in a bow, Malin, is not to wrap it up in a bow because I feel like the only truth is what's true for me at this moment, right? And this is a squishy space that I don't know that we've ever been able to um define very well is, you know, it's okay. Where you're at is okay. When you're ready to do something different, you can do something different. And you just have to be okay with that choice. And you have to be okay with what that does for you where you're at. So this has been a harder conversation than I expected.
Exactly. I was gonna say this is.
Like
I thought this was so Brooke. I thought this was gonna be like a softball, where we'd be like, "Hey, welcome to
right.
the round table. Let's just chit chat." And now we're like, my
Uh,
world perspective has just been shattered. Thank you very much.
Malin is
You're welcome.
on his ear over here with
Brooke's like, "This is what I do. This is every day. Thank you."
right.
Well,
So you've gotten nowhere.
no, no, but all honestly, again, thanks for coming on and kind of sharing your perspective and just coming with an open mind. That's very much appreciated. Um, it's hard to kind of land and kind of close up something like this because again, I'm the type of person that I want that bow on that package. I want the book closed. I want to put it back on the shelf and then get ready to do my next read. And this is an unfinished project. And maybe part of what I need to learn about myself is I should probably have more unfinished projects around me as a reminder that says it's okay that not every piece fits together before I can feel good about something.
I was gonna say, you don't have to ram it down the finish line there, my friend. You can just let it be okay.
Yeah, and I also don't need commentary. Just kidding. I'm just kidding, Jamie. I'm just
Wait a minute. I thought we had one of those relationships where I could just be like, Malin, my friend.
No, I know. I'm just kidding you. But no, honestly, both of you, thank you so much. It's hard, Jamie. You said it. It's hard to have these conversations when you want everything to be tidy and clean and be able to put it aside, and it's not. And it felt weird, right? Like I'm just saying, this conversation just felt weird for me. So I appreciate both of you kind of just coming alongside and having that dialogue with me as I'm trying to fit this in my own worldview. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, Brooke, thanks for joining us. And we would like to just thank all of you for joining us on this, I don't know, and not really roller coaster, but interesting conversation about complacency and happiness today. So we hope you'll join us again next time around the roundtable. Bye, everyone.
Bye.